The shuttle landed on the surface of the moon with a soft thud. Dust rose into the thin air and hung there like a cloud that did not want to fall. Commander looked through the window at the dead landscape. Nothing had lived here for thousands of years. Nothing should have been here at all. But the scans had shown something buried deep beneath the rocks, something old, something that should not exist. Was tall and thin, with blue skin that marked him as one of the people. His 4 eyes blinked one pair at a time as he studied the readings on his tablet. The signal was still there, faint but clear, an energy signature from deep underground. "Prepare the team," he said to his second officer, a short creature named with scales that shimmered green in the artificial light. "We dig today." The excavation team was small, only 12 members from 5 different species. They had come from the Allied Exploration Corps, a group of scientists and engineers who searched dead worlds for lost technology. Most of their missions found nothing: empty planets, forgotten ruins, dust and silence. But this moon was different. The energy readings were unlike anything in their records. The signal pattern matched no known civilization. It was a mystery and loved mysteries. Among the crew was a human woman named. She was the only human on the ship. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They had only left their home planet a few decades ago. Most species saw them as children, young and simple and not very important. Did not mind what others thought. She was an engineer and she was good at her job. She could fix machines that others had given up on. She could read old systems and make them work again. That was why she had been assigned to this mission. She stood at the back of the group as they gathered their equipment. Her dark hair was tied back, and her brown eyes watched everything with quiet attention. She did not speak much. She preferred to listen and learn. "Human," called out, "you will come with the first team. We may need your skills if we find old technology." Nodded and picked up her tool bag. She followed the others out of the shuttle and onto the dust of the moon. The walk to the dig site took an hour. The landscape was empty and flat. No mountains, no valleys, just endless under a black sky filled with unfamiliar stars. Looked up at them and wondered which one was her son. She could not tell anymore. Home felt very far away. The dig site was marked by a ring of lights that the advance team had set up. In the center was a hole that went down into darkness. Machines hummed as they moved rock and dirt to the surface. "We have reached something," the lead scientist reported too. She was like the commander but older and with a pattern of white scars across her face. Her name was, "A structure of some kind, made of crystal, we think. The readings are very strange." "Strange how?" asked. "The crystal is not natural, it was made. But we cannot tell how old it is. Our instruments give different answers every time we scan it. Sometimes it says 1,000 years. Sometimes it says 100,000. It is as if time does not touch it properly." Felt a shiver run through his thin body. He had heard stories of such things, artifacts from the old ones, the civilization that had existed before all others, the ones who had vanished without a trace millions of years ago. "Show me," he said. The team descended into the hole. The walls were smooth, cut by machines that worked with perfect precision. Lights had been placed along the way, but they seemed dim against the darkness below. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Felt something strange as they climbed down, a feeling in her chest, like a pull. Like something was calling to her from below. She said nothing about it. She thought it was just nerves. After 30 minutes of climbing, they reached the bottom. The chamber was massive. The ceiling was so high that the lights could not reach it, and in the center of the chamber sat the relic. It was beautiful. A crystal structure that rose from the floor like a frozen flame. It was taller than any building had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and dark, like black glass. Strange patterns were carved into it, symbols that seemed to move when she looked at them from the corner of her eye. The team stopped at the entrance and stared. No one spoke. The silence was heavy, like a weight pressing down on all of them. "By the stars," whispered. "It is real, the stories were true." Walked closer, his 4 eyes wide with wonder and fear. "Scan it, record everything, but do not touch it." The scientists moved forward with their instruments, set up cameras to capture images from every angle. Others took readings and measurements and samples of the air around the crystal. Stayed near the back. The pulling feeling in her chest was stronger now. It was not unpleasant, but it was strange, like the relic knew she was there, like it was waiting for her. She shook her head and tried to focus on her work. She was here to help with technical problems, not to have strange feelings about old crystals. "The readings are dead," one of the scientists reported. "No energy output, no heat, no electromagnetic activity. It is completely inactive." "But the signal," said with confusion. "We detected a signal from orbit." "The signal has stopped, Commander. Whatever it was, it is not active now." Frowned, this made no sense. They had followed the signal here. It had been clear and strong. Now it was gone, and the crystal sat silent and dark. "Perhaps it was an echo," suggested. "Old energy trapped in the rock. It happens sometimes with ancient sites." "Perhaps," said, but he did not sound convinced. Listened to them talk, but her attention was on the relic. The pull was almost unbearable now. Her feet wanted to move forward. Her hands wanted to reach out and touch the dark surface. She took a step. Then another. "Human," noticed her moving. "What are you doing?" She did not answer. She could not answer. Her body moved on its own, walking toward the crystal with slow, steady steps. "Stop her," someone shouted. But it was too late. His hand touched the surface of the relic, and the darkness came alive. Light exploded from the crystal, not harsh light but soft and warm, like a sunrise after a long night. The symbols on the surface began to glow, one after another, spreading up the crystal like fire climbing a tree. The team fell back in fear, shouted orders, but no one could hear him over the sound that filled the chamber, a deep hum, a vibration that went through their bodies and into their bones. Stood at the center of it all, her hand still pressed against the crystal. Her eyes were wide open, but she did not see the chamber anymore. She saw something else, something vast and ancient and beautiful. The relic had been sleeping for 10,000 years. And now it was awake. The light filled every corner of the chamber. It pushed against the darkness and won. The ancient crystal that had been silent for so long now sang with energy. Its surface rippled like water, and the carved symbols burned bright blue against the black glass. Commander covered his eyes with both hands. The light was too strong. His sensitive vision could not handle such brightness. Around him, the other team members stumbled and fell back. Some ran for the tunnel. Others dropped to their knees and stared in wonder and terror, but did not move. She stood with her palm pressed flat against the crystal. The light wrapped around her like a gentle hand. It did not hurt her. It felt warm, like sunlight on a summer day, like coming home after a long journey. Images flooded her mind. She saw stars being born. She saw planets forming from dust and gas. She saw great cities rising on worlds she did not recognize, towers of silver and gold, ships that sailed between galaxies, beings of light and shadow walking through gardens that stretched for thousands of miles. And she saw the end. She saw the cities fall. She saw the stars go dark one by one. She saw the last of them, the final survivors, building this crystal with their dying strength, putting everything they knew inside it, waiting for someone to come. Waiting for her. Shouted, his voice sounded far away like an echo from another world. Step away from the relic. She could not step away. She did not want to. The crystal was speaking to her, not with words but with feelings and pictures. It was showing her things, teaching her things, things that had been forgotten for 10,000 years. The humming sound grew louder. The floor began to shake. Cracks appeared in the stone walls of the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain. "We need to leave," said. His scales had turned pale with fear. "This place is going to collapse." "We cannot leave without the human," said. He was afraid too, but he was still the commander. He would not abandon a member of his crew. He pushed forward against the light. Each step was hard. The energy coming from the crystal pressed against him like a strong wind. But he kept going, one step at a time, until he reached. "Human," he said, standing beside her, "you must come with me now." Turned her head slowly. Her eyes were glowing with the same blue light as the crystal. When she spoke, her voice was different, deeper, older, like many voices speaking as one. "They have waited so long," she said. "They watched the stars and hoped, generation after generation, but no one came until now." "Who?" asked. "Who has been waiting?" "The architects," answered. "The first people. They made everything, the stars, the planets, life itself. They planted seeds across the galaxy and watched them grow. But they knew they could not last forever, so they built this. A record, a gift, a key." The light from the crystal began to change. It pulled back from the walls and gathered above them. It spun and twisted and took shape. A figure appeared, a hologram made of pure light. The figure was tall and thin, with features that were almost human but not quite. Its face was too smooth. Its eyes were too large. Its limbs were too long. It wore robes that flowed like liquid silver, and when it moved, it left trails of light behind it. It looked down at them with kindness, with patience, with something that might have been love. "Children of the seed," the figure spoke. Its voice filled the chamber but did not echo. It went straight into their minds. "You have come at last." Dropped to his knees, he had studied the old texts. He had heard the legends, but he had never believed them. He had thought they were just stories, myths told to explain what could not be explained. Now he knew they were true. "Are you one of the architects?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I am a shadow of what was," the figure replied. "A memory stored in crystal. The last of my kind gave their remaining strength to create me, so that when the heirs arrived they would understand." Heirs looked at what heirs? The hologram turned its great eyes toward the human woman. She stood still, her hand no longer touching the crystal. The glow in her eyes was fading, but she did not look afraid. She looked calm, like someone who had just learned something important. "Her people," the hologram said. "The humans, they are our final creation, our greatest hope. We made many species across the stars, but they were experiments, tests, learning steps on a long road. The humans were the end of that road. They carry our essence in their blood, our dreams in their minds, our potential in their souls." The other team members had stopped running. They stood in the tunnel and listened. Some recorded the hologram with their devices. Others simply stared with mouths open. "That is impossible," said. She was a scientist. She believed in facts and evidence. "Humans evolved on their home world. We have studied their history. There is no sign of outside influence." "We did not build them," the hologram explained. "We guided the conditions that would lead to them. Billions of years ago, we touched their world. We adjusted the chemistry. We shaped the environment. We set things in motion and then we stepped back. We let nature do its work, and nature created them just as we hoped." Listened to these words and felt their truth in her heart. She did not know how she knew, but she did. The crystal had shown her the connection between her species and these ancient beings, the thread that linked humanity to the beginning of all things. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was small in the great chamber. "Why us? Why go through so much trouble?" The hologram smiled. It was a sad smile, full of memory and loss. "Because we were dying," it said. "Our time was ending. We had lived for millions of years, but nothing lasts forever. We knew we would fade, and we did not want everything we had learned to fade with us. So we created heirs, beings who could carry on, who could grow and learn and become something greater than we ever were." The hologram raised its long arms toward the ceiling. This relic contains everything we knew. Our science, our art, our history, our technology. It has been waiting for the heirs to claim it, waiting for a human to touch the crystal and wake it from its long sleep. Stood up slowly. His 4 eyes were wet with tears he did not bother to hide. And now, he asked, what happens now? The hologram looked at again. The human woman felt the weight of that gaze, the weight of 10,000 years of waiting, the weight of a dead civilization's hope. Now, the hologram said, the inheritance begins. The crystal pulsed once more and new patterns appeared on its surface. They looked like maps, star charts, coordinates to places scattered across the galaxy. There are more relics, the hologram continued. Vaults of knowledge hidden on distant worlds, ships that sleep in the dark between stars, cities preserved in time, waiting to be found. All of it belongs to the heirs. All of it belongs to humanity. Looked at the maps carved in light. She saw the scale of what was being offered, technology that could change everything, knowledge that could lift her people to heights they had never imagined. And she was afraid, because she also understood the responsibility, the danger, the burden of being chosen. The hologram began to fade. Its work was done. The message had been delivered. Go forth, children of the seed, it said, its voice growing softer. Claim what is yours, but remember what we learned too late. Power without wisdom destroys. Strength without kindness corrupts. Be better than we were. Be worthy of the inheritance. The light went out. The crystal fell silent. The chamber was dark again, lit only by the small lights the team had brought with them. Stood alone in the center, her hand still raised toward where the hologram had been. Everything had changed, and nothing would ever be the same. The team sat in the shuttle in silence. No one knew what to say. They had come to this dead moon looking for old technology, maybe a few artifacts worth studying. Instead, they had found something that changed everything they believed about the universe. Sat apart from the others, she stared at her hands like they belonged to a stranger. Those hands had touched the crystal. Those hands had woken something that had slept for 10,000 years. She could still feel the warmth of the light. She could still see the images burned into her mind. Commander watched her from across the shuttle. His 4 eyes studied her with a mix of wonder and worry. She was the same human who had joined his crew 6 months ago. Quiet, skilled, nothing special, but now she was something else. She was the key to a legacy that spanned millions of years. We need to report this, said. She was the first to break the silence. Her voice was shaky, but she was trying to be practical. Scientists dealt with facts. They made reports. They followed procedures. It was easier to focus on routine than to think about what they had just witnessed. Report what exactly? Asked. His scales had returned to their normal green, but his hands still trembled. That we found the greatest discovery in galactic history, that humans are the chosen heirs of an ancient god race. Who would believe us? We have recordings, said. Evidence, the hologram, the crystal, the coordinates. The coordinates, repeated. He turned to look at, do you remember them, the maps it showed? Nodded slowly. She did remember. Every line, every symbol, every star. The crystal had put them in her head and she knew they would never leave. She could close her eyes and see the paths leading to hidden vaults across the galaxy. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. I remember everything, she said quietly. The others exchanged looks. This was the part that made them uncomfortable. The hologram had been clear. The inheritance belonged to humanity, not to the species, not to any of the other races that made up the Allied Exploration Corps, just to humans. It was not fair. The galaxy had many species, many civilizations, many cultures. They had all grown up under the same stars. They had all worked together to explore and learn. And now they were being told that one species was special. One species had been chosen before any of the others even existed. We should talk about what happens next, said carefully. This discovery will have consequences, political consequences. The other species will want access to the relics, the technology, the knowledge. It is not theirs to take, said. She surprised herself with the strength in her voice. The hologram was clear. The inheritance belongs to humanity. And do you think the galaxy will simply accept that? Asked. His voice was not angry, but it carried a warning. My people have been traveling the stars for 5,000 years. They have been doing it for 10,000. Humans have only been out here for a few decades. If you claim all this power for yourselves, there will be conflict, maybe even war. Felt cold. She had not thought about it that way. She was just an engineer. She fixed machines and solved problems. She did not know anything about politics or war or the balance of power between species. I did not ask for this, she said. No, agreed. But it has been given to you anyway. The question is what you will do with it. The shuttle lifted off from the moon and began its journey back to the main ship. Watched the surface fall away through the window. Somewhere down there, the crystal still waited, still holding its secrets, still ready to give them to anyone with human blood. Her blood. Over the next few hours, tried to make sense of what she had learned. The crystal had not just shown her images. It had given her understanding. She knew things now that she had never studied. Principles of science that no one in the galaxy had discovered. Mathematics that solved problems thought to be impossible. Engineering concepts that made her head spin. It was too much, too fast. She felt like a cup trying to hold an ocean. Found her sitting alone in the storage bay. The scientist looked tired. Her white scars seemed deeper in the dim light. May I join you? Asked. Nodded. Sat down on a metal crate. For a while she said nothing. She just sat there, breathing slowly, gathering her thoughts. I have spent my whole life searching for answers, finally said. I wanted to know where we came from, why we exist, whether we are alone in the universe. And now I have those answers, or at least some of them. She paused. I thought it would feel better than this. It does not feel like anything to me, admitted. It just feels heavy. Smiled a small smile. That is perhaps the most honest thing anyone has said today. She turned to look at directly. I want you to know that I do not blame you. I do not blame your species. The architects made their choice millions of years ago. There is no point being angry at the dead. But others will be angry, said. Yes, others will be angry. Others will be jealous. Some will try to take what is yours by force. Some will try to manipulate you into sharing it. Some will say humans are too young and too foolish to be trusted with such power. Reached out and put a hand on shoulder. And some of those concerns may be valid. Your species is young. You have made many mistakes. You have caused much suffering even to each other. Felt the truth of those words. Human history was full of war and cruelty. They had almost destroyed their own planet before they learned to take care of it. They had hurt each other in countless ways. Were they really ready to be the heirs of an ancient civilization? Were they worthy of such a gift? The hologram said we should be better, remembered. Power without wisdom destroys. Strength without kindness corrupts. Then perhaps that is your answer, said. Not to hide from the inheritance, but to earn it. To prove that humans can be trusted with power. To show the galaxy that you will use this gift for good. Thought about this. It was a heavy responsibility. Too heavy for one person to carry. But maybe that was the point. Maybe she was not supposed to carry it alone. I need to tell my people, she said. All of humanity needs to know. This decision cannot be made by me. It has to be made by everyone. Nodded with approval. That is wise. The first wise decision in what will be a long road. The ship reached their base station 3 days later. By then, the recordings had been analyzed and the coordinates had been mapped. The message from the architects had been translated into every language the crew knew. News spread fast, first to the exploration corps, then to the allied governments, then to the wider galaxy, and finally to Earth. Watched the transmissions go out. She saw the reactions begin: shock, disbelief, excitement, fear, the same mix of emotions she had felt in that underground chamber. The galaxy was about to change. Old alliances would be tested. Old assumptions would be broken. The quiet species from the small blue planet was suddenly the most important species in the universe, and was at the center of it all, the first human to touch the crystal, the one who woke the sleepers, the one who carried the maps in her mind. She did not feel special. She did not feel chosen. She just felt scared. But she also felt something else, something small but growing. Hope. Because if the architects believed humanity could be worthy of this inheritance, then maybe they could be. Maybe they could rise to meet this moment. Maybe they could prove themselves to the galaxy and to each other. Maybe this was not just an ending for the old civilization. Maybe it was a beginning for hers. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched for what seemed like miles, with seats rising in great circles toward a ceiling painted with the images of 1,000 worlds. Representatives from 200 species sat in those seats, watching, waiting, judging. And in the center of it all, standing on a platform no bigger than her bedroom back on Earth, stood. She had never wanted this. She was not a leader or a speaker. She was an engineer who liked quiet rooms and difficult problems. But here she was, facing the leaders of the known galaxy, trying to explain something she barely understood herself. "Tell us again," the High Speaker demanded. He was a species known for their sharp minds and sharper tongues. His body was covered in silver scales, and his eyes glowed yellow in the chamber lights. "Tell us why your species alone should control the architect inheritance." "I did not say we should control it alone," replied. Her voice was small in the vast space, but the amplifiers carried it to every ear. "I said the inheritance was given to us. Those are different things." "Are they?" The High Speaker leaned forward. "You have coordinates to vaults filled with technology beyond anything we have ever seen. You have knowledge that could advance our civilizations by thousands of years. And you say this belongs only to humans." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Could feel the weight of all those eyes on her. Some were curious, some were hostile, some were afraid. She did not blame any of them. If their positions were reversed, she would feel the same way. "The architects did not ask my permission," said. "They made their choice millions of years before I was born, before any of us were born. I cannot change what they decided. I can only try to honor their wishes while also being fair to everyone else." "And what does fairness look like to you?" another voice asked. This one belonged to Commander. He stood in the section reserved for the delegation. His 4 eyes met hers with something like sympathy. They had become friends during their time together, and she was grateful for his presence now. Took a deep breath. This was the part she had practiced, the part that scared her the most. "Humanity will not keep the inheritance for ourselves," she said. The murmurs stopped. The chamber became very quiet. "The architects created these gifts for the heirs, but the heirs do not exist alone. We are part of a galactic community. We have friends and allies and partners who have welcomed us even though we are young. It would be wrong to shut them out." "So you will share?" the High Speaker asked. There was suspicion in his voice. "You will give away what was given to you." "Not give away," corrected. "Share. There is a difference. Humanity will lead the effort to explore the vaults and understand the technology. We will coordinate the research and make decisions about what to release and when. But we will not do it alone. We will invite scientists from every willing species to join us. We will build something together." The chamber erupted into noise. Some voices shouted in protest. Others called out in support. The High Speaker had to strike his staff against the floor 3 times before order was restored. "This is unacceptable," a delegate from the collective said. She was small and insect-like with wings that buzzed when she was angry. They were buzzing now. "Humans leading, humans deciding. You have been in space for less than a lifetime. We have empires that are older than your entire civilization. And that is exactly why we need to lead, said. She did not know where the courage came from, but she found it somewhere deep inside. The architects chose us because we are young, because we have not yet become set in our ways, because we can still grow and change and learn. She looked around the chamber at all the ancient faces. With respect, many of your civilizations stopped growing long ago. You found comfortable patterns and stayed in them. You stopped asking questions. You stopped dreaming. The delegate's wings buzzed louder. You dare insult us. I dare speak the truth, said. Humans are young, yes, we have made mistakes. We will make more, but we are also curious and stubborn and full of hope. We do not accept limits. We do not believe anything is impossible. The architects saw that in us. They saw something worth investing in. She stepped forward on the platform, her hands shaking but her voice steady. I am not asking you to follow us blindly. I am asking you to walk beside us, to help us grow into the role we have been given, to share your wisdom so we do not repeat your mistakes, and in return we will share what we find, every discovery, every breakthrough, every secret of the architects. The chamber was silent again, could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Finally spoke again. I believe her, he said, his voice carried across the chamber with calm authority. I was there when the relic woke. I saw the message. The architects did not choose humanity to rule over us. They chose humanity to lead us forward. There is a difference. A convenient interpretation, the High Speaker said. Perhaps, but it is the only interpretation that does not lead to war. Looked around at his fellow delegates. Think about it. If humanity hoards this power, we will all suffer, but if they share it, we all benefit. The question is whether we trust them enough to try. The debate continued for hours. Some species threatened to leave the council. Others demanded more guarantees. Others still offered their full support without conditions. It was messy and loud and frustrating. But in the end, a compromise was reached. Humanity would lead the Architect Project, as it came to be called. They would coordinate expeditions to the Vault Worlds and oversee the study of recovered technology. But they would not do it alone. A council of advisors from 12 major species would work alongside them. Every discovery would be reviewed together. Every decision would be made transparently. It was not perfect. It was not what anyone had hoped for at the start, but it was a beginning. Returned to her quarters that night feeling exhausted. Her bones ached. Her mind was foggy. She had spoken more words in one day than she had in the past year. There was a message waiting for her, from Earth, from her mother. She opened it with trembling fingers. My little, her mother's voice said through the speaker. I saw you on the broadcast, standing in front of all those aliens, speaking for our whole planet. I am so proud of you. Your father would be proud too. Felt tears forming in her eyes. Her father had died 3 years ago before she joined the Exploration Corps. He had always believed she would do great things. She had never believed him. I know you must be scared, her mother continued. I know this is not what you wanted, but life rarely gives us what we want. It gives us what we need. And right now, humanity needs someone like you, someone who thinks before she speaks, someone who cares about doing the right thing, someone who remembers that we are all just people trying to find our way in a big, strange universe. The message ended, sat alone in the dark, letting the tears fall. The burden was heavy. The responsibility was enormous. The path ahead was uncertain and dangerous. But she was not alone. She had allies who believed in her. She had a species counting on her. She had the memory of her father and the love of her mother. And she had the hope of the architects, who had looked across millions of years and seen something in humanity worth saving. She would not let them down. She would not let any of them down. 5 years passed. Stood on the observation deck of the research station and watched the planet below. It was green and blue, with white clouds drifting across its surface. A beautiful world. A living world. one of 347 that the Architect Project had discovered in the vault coordinates. This one was special. It was not just a storage vault or a hidden research station. It was a garden, a preserve, a place where the architects had saved thousands of species from worlds that no longer existed. Plants and animals and creatures that had been extinct for millions of years, kept alive in perfect stasis, waiting for someone to wake them. Waiting for humanity. "The teams are ready," a voice said behind her, turned to see standing in the doorway. He was older now, his blue skin marked with new lines, but his 4 eyes still sparkled with curiosity. He had become one of her closest advisors over the years, a friend she could not have done without. "Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" asked. It was a question she asked often, about every decision. She had learned that doubt was not weakness, it was wisdom. "No," admitted. "I am never sure, but I believe it is. These creatures deserve to live again. The worlds we have found can support them, and the galaxy deserves to see what the architects preserved." Nodded slowly. They had debated this for months. Some argued that releasing extinct species could disrupt existing ecosystems. Others said it was not their place to play with life this way. But in the end, the council had agreed. The architects had saved these creatures for a reason. Keeping them frozen forever seemed wrong. The project had changed everything. In 5 years, they had opened 73 vaults. They had found technology that revolutionized medicine, ending diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. They had discovered clean energy sources that made old power systems obsolete. They had unlocked secrets of physics that allowed ships to travel farther and faster than ever before. And they had shared all of it, every species, every world. No one was left out, no one was kept behind. It was not always easy. There were disagreements and fights and moments when everything almost fell apart. Some species thought humans were sharing too slowly. Others thought they were sharing too fast. Politics was messy and frustrating and endless. But it worked. Somehow, against all odds, it worked. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through conquest or domination, but through generosity and trust. They had proven that they could be good stewards of the inheritance, that they could lead without controlling, that they could be powerful without being cruel. Thought about the hologram from the crystal sometimes, the sad smile on its ancient face, the warning about power and wisdom. She hoped they were living up to those words. She hoped the architects would be proud. A young man appeared at the door. His name was, and he was one of the new generation, born after the discovery, raised in a galaxy that knew about the inheritance. To him, this was just how things were. He did not remember a time when humans were the young newcomers, ignored by the older species. "Director," he said with a small bow, "the ceremony is about to begin." Director, she still was not used to that title. She had tried to refuse it many times, but people kept using it anyway. Eventually, she had stopped fighting. "Thank you," she said. "I will be there soon." The young man stayed. "You are thinking about the beginning again," he said. It was not a question. After 5 years, he knew her well enough to read her moods. "I think about it often," admitted. "That day in the chamber when the crystal woke up, when my life changed forever." She smiled a small smile. "I was so scared. And now I am still scared. But it is a different kind of fear. Not fear of what will happen. Fear that I will not be good enough. That I will make mistakes that hurt people. That I will let everyone down." Walked to stand beside her at the window. Together, they looked down at the garden world. "That fear is what makes you good at this," he said. "Leaders who do not feel that fear are dangerous. They become arrogant, they stop listening, they believe they can do no wrong." He put a hand on her shoulder. "You will make mistakes, everyone does, but you will also fix them. You will learn and grow and become better. That is what the architects saw in your species, not perfection, potential." Felt her eyes grow wet. Even after all these years, she still needed to hear those words sometimes. "Come," said, "let us go wake some ancient creatures and see what happens." The ceremony was beautiful. Representatives from 50 species had gathered on the surface of the garden world. They stood in a great circle around the stasis chamber, watching as the engineers prepared to open it. Inside were seeds and eggs and cells from 10,000 extinct species, life that had not existed for millions of years. Stepped forward to the control panel. This was her job, her honor. The first human to touch the architect crystal was also the one who would restore what the architects had saved. She thought about her father, about her mother, about all the humans on all the worlds who were watching this moment through broadcasts. She thought about the aliens who had become her friends, about the council members who had trusted her, about the young people like who would carry this work into the future. She thought about the architects themselves, those ancient beings who had faced the end of their civilization and chosen hope over despair, who had built the crystals and the vaults and the gardens, who had planted seeds across the galaxy and waited for them to grow. "This is for you," she whispered, "a prayer to the dead, a promise to the living. We will not waste what you gave us. We will honor your memory. We will be worthy of your trust." She pressed the button. The stasis chamber hummed, lights flickered, and then slowly, gently, life began to stir inside. The crowd watched in silence as ancient creatures took their first breaths in millions of years. Birds with feathers of gold and silver, plants with flowers that glowed in the dark, small animals with eyes full of wonder, looking out at a universe they did not recognize. They would need time to adapt, time to learn this new galaxy, but they would have that time. The Architect Project would make sure of it. Watched the awakening and felt something bloom in her chest, not pride, not triumph, something quieter and deeper. Gratitude. She was grateful for the accident that had led her to that moon, grateful for the crystal that had recognized her touch, grateful for the friends who had stood beside her, grateful for the chance to be part of something bigger than herself. The architects had created humanity as their heirs. They had invested millions of years and all their remaining hope in a species that did not yet exist. It was the greatest act of faith in the history of the universe. And now, standing in the garden of ancient life, surrounded by allies from across the stars, knew that faith had not been misplaced. Humanity had risen to meet its inheritance. Not with conquest, not with arrogance, but with open hands and open hearts. The heirs had come home at last. And they would make the architects proud.